Oh snap, it looks like Mega Evolutions are going to be much different in Pokemon Sun and Moon than we're used to, or at least that's the theory. Let's go and look at this a bit more. So Mega Evolutions might be a lot different because when we look at our trainer from Pokemon Sun and Moon, that's not a Mega, is that a Mega, that's some kind of bracelet that has some kind of gem in the center of it. That could mean something. So just like in Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we have, let's just call it a Mega Bracelet, or some kind of bracelet for now, where it's on the left wrist, we can activate it, seemingly, and then Pokemon power things will happen. Now, this isn't any kind of secret on Game Freak's part or anything, that this was obviously intentional and it's meant to be in your face, and it's meant to drive some kind of speculation, but we still don't know everything about it. Is it just going to be the Mega Bracelet and everything else is going to function the same? Or is it going to be a bit different? Now, one thing is we've seen this stone before on the Pokemon Sun and Moon Japanese logos. So pretty much for almost 4 months now since we got our first initial tease of Pokemon Sun and Moon, these gems have tried to mean something. At first we thought they meant a lot, then as we didn't see any more information, we thought that it was just kind of some kind of random shiny stone that was meant to look pretty, and now that it's on the bracelet, this has some extreme significance, and we can see this with Pokemon X and Y, that in the logos, we had the Mega Stone symbol, and with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, we had the red and blue orbs, so we had a hint on Primal Evolution, so this has something to do with Megas, or potentially some kind of unlocked power in Pokemon. And then we get to the Pokemon anime, which is now starting to really show a lot more between Ash and Greninja. Like, this is well timed if it is related in some way, that there's a new animation for when Ash and Greninja go in synchro, and Ash Greninja things are starting to become a lot more clear right now, and it's almost like a Mega Evolution, but not really, because there's no Mega Stone. It's just kind of, they get a really close bond going on, and then Greninja just gets a lot more power, and Ash even says he feels exactly like Greninja when it's happening, so there's a very powerful connection going on that seems very similar to Mega Evolution, especially when we look at it in the anime, in the Pokemon Origins. The bond that Red connects into Charizard, and then we use the Mega Stone to get Mega Charizard X. It shows a lot of significance about just Mega Evolution in general, that in the game it's also shown that it's about having the closest possible connection with your Pokemon to unlock its true power. So I'm liking that this is carrying over through many of the aspects in Pokemon, and maybe this gem has something to do with it, that much like there's that special animation for when Ash and Greninja sync up and have all their craziness go on. What if that's what this is supposed to represent? That's a stone. That the stone maybe can work with any Pokemon and give them some kind of crazy power without necessarily needing a Mega Evolution. One really interesting thing is that it is even questioned in the games, can every Pokemon Mega evolve? That's actually speculated that every Pokemon has this power inside of them, but what if it doesn't require a stone now, just to simplify it for either the game designers or just not make it so cluttered to where everything gets some kind of crazy new form for Mega Evolution, even though there's a lot of seemingly random Mega Pokemon that already exist. Now, when we talk about synchro and synergy and synergizing and stuff like that, well, let's just go over to Pokken Tournament. So now we have Pokken Tournament, which is like a side game that's relating to the anime, which is relating to Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is relating to pretty much all of the 6th generation about Mega Evolutions, and it starts to make sense. Now, we see a Synergy Stone in the game, and there's a blue one on the female trainer's wrist. So there we go. We don't know what the colors represent necessarily. There's just some kind of stone things going on, and it looks very, very similar. That when Pokken Tournament came out, it kind of revived the theory just a little bit more, like, okay, this is a bit interesting, and it might actually mean something. And then we could actually go and look at what Synergy Stones are about. So it's about Synergy Burst, or the Burst meter, when you're playing Pokken Tournament. That when you go into Burst, you either create a Mega Evolution for that Pokemon, or a similar power-up. So it shows that with this stone, you can actually activate the hidden powers of any Pokemon. That we see a lot of random Pokemon like Chandelure and even legendary Pokemon that are capable of this power as long as you have a strong enough trainer bond with them. That's actually really cool. And then you also get your Burst attack, which is a super special attack, but shows that it doesn't even get rid of Mega Evolutions either. It doesn't fully replace it because the Pokemon Mega Evolve in Pokken Tournament anyway. Now, I'm wondering what this could mean for future Megas. Now, I don't think it's actually going to completely overwrite all of Megas. That we even see new Mega Evolutions come out with this mechanic, so all you Mega Flygon fans out there, don't give up just yet. But it does kind of transition into what this could mean. So if we're not completely abolishing Megas and we're trying to kind of level a playing field for all Pokemon, Mega Pokemon get a lot of power. A 100 base stat total increase, and that could go into all kinds of points. And even with Pokemon like Ampharos, Ampharos actually loses stats and speed, but gains other stats elsewhere, and then just really powers up overall. And every Pokemon has gotten a 100 base stat total increase, except for Alakazam. Alakazam has its own reasons. It's kind of weird because Ampharos actually got a buff in the 6th generation, increasing its base stat total by 10. Alakazam had the same, but its Mega Evolution is only 90. So there's really no real reason why Alakazam got a 90 base stat increase. Let's just call it 100 for the sake of easiness and stuff like that. So how is this going to work for regular Pokemon? Well, if we take a Pokemon like Dunsparce, how are we going to increase its base stat total? Is it going to get any kind of just fanciness, or is it only going to get like a plus 10 to every base stat? Because think about if we do a full 100 base stat total increase for every Pokemon, things are going to get nutty and just absolutely ridiculous. What if Greninja gets plus 20 on all of its base stats except for hit points, because that's how it would work. Like, they just do a flat pass through of all the Pokemon. You can get some very unbalanced scenarios from then, but at the same time, plus 10 doesn't seem like a lot. Is that going to be enough to make Dunsparce viable? Is that going to be enough to make some other Pokemon viable? Because in a lot of cases of Mega Evolutions, they get a much more beneficial ability as well, and that does help increase their power, like Mawile. Mawile got plus 100 base stat total and an ability that doubles its attack, so it's getting way more stats out of this than a lot of other Pokemon. It's really interesting because maybe from a developer standpoint, it's like, okay, instead of redesigning all the Pokemon, we'll just go in and tune some stats. You know, it's the buff that they want to do, or it's like the faux evolution. That's not quite an evolution, but it does give enough base stats to make up for it. And maybe it's anywhere from like 40 to 80. Maybe they'll do 100. Maybe they'll just do 50. Maybe they'll bounce it around because, like, all right, what if there's a special attacker that's gaining defenses and it's gaining attack and it just wants to be a special sweeper or something like that? So it does create a lot of really weird scenarios, but at the same time, you can't take away from Mega Evolutions too much. The Mega Pokemon have had a lot of care put into them, that they have their own designs, they have their own lore, they have pretty much a lot going for them. So if you take away that specialness by just slapping on stats to any Pokemon, it removes some of that, and maybe that's the point, is that, okay, it's like a lesser Mega Evolution for all the Pokemon, which means that we can still introduce more Mega Evolutions, we can still find power in the Pokemon that are deserving of a Mega Evolution, but at the same time, it at least levels the playing field. Maybe you get one burst, like maybe this is going to be called like a Synergy Burst, because it is a Synergy Stone, or you get like one burst per battle, so it could either be a Mega Evolution or just a random Pokemon, but it might play into your strategy. Now this could make competitive Pokemon way crazy too, because okay, now I have to remember all the base stats of all the Pokemon because they can get burst and then it gets improved even more and plays into craziness like that. So I don't know where they're going to go with this, honestly. It's kind of really crazy. Like, why is this so closely related to Pokken Tournament, which is also very close with the bond for Mega Evolutions and stuff like that, and then somehow Ash's Greninja is probably going to work into this because there's so much effort that's being put into this. It has to get some kind of carry through. It has to become a part of Pokemon like canon in every form, the games and the anime and even cards. Actually, we don't know about cards. That would be that. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to think about the card game at this point. Now, one thing that's really interesting is let's not count out Rebirth. I'm not talking about Rebirth as in the weird Pokemon fusions that we're getting because of it, but maybe Rebirth was an experiment. Okay, becoming the Pokemon a little too weird, a little too like old school Japan. Wanted to try it out because every franchise has it at some point in some way, you know. But we'll maybe just dial back on that. And then we get Mega Evolution, so it's alright, still a very close bond, something like that, but then we're kind of tampering with it a bit more. Okay, Ash Greninja, a little bit of that synchro going on. And then with Pokken Tournament is really next level. Like, what I love about the game Pokken Tournament is that it feels like a real Pokemon battle. It feels like Pokemon in the real world. It's about as real as it gets. And that might actually be very significant right there because, okay, we're getting these live interactions and trying to transfer it into Pokemon Sun and Moon isn't going to work. It's still a turn-based game. You can see that from the trailer. But what if we do keep that synergy in there? We keep that dynamic aspect of some kind of burst mechanic that could actually play into Pokemon Sun and Moon. I think a big supporting evidence of this is the battle layout. The battle layout includes more. It feels a lot more dynamic. And maybe that's just kind of the idea, is it's the evolution of Pokemon battling throughout the games, and Pokken Tournament's actually going to influence into this a bit. That Pokken Tournament was an experiment, much how Rebirth is an experiment, much how just kind of seeing if we can get this synchro between Ash and Greninja to kind of carry through and become canon with all of Pokemon, that actually might be something significant. I'm really excited to see that. So at this time, hopefully I put enough graphics on the screen to where it makes sense. Hopefully I did enough research to where it's not completely wrong, but there's still a lot of questions. Like, I'm really curious as to how the stats are going to go, how Burst could work for any Pokemon, and that it could be a really nice way to level Mega Evolutions and not just kind of make it crazy, or it's like, oh, I wish my favorite Pokemon had Mega. Instead, you could bring their Burst and try to make the most of it, even though you're giving up some kind of Mega advantage that other Pokemon would have. I mean, you could, like I said, there's probably some Pokemon that if you go and do a pass through every Pokemon, there's probably some that are going to become absolutely busted, and that could be really fun to see. that all of a sudden a new strategy that doesn't require megas, that actually brings the same level of power with even less base stats, could actually change up the game quite a lot. And I think it could be pretty healthy as long as it's not, like, as long as Pokemon does balance. I think Pokemon needs to do balance patches, but now we're just talking about competitive play and not this overall strat and not this overall theory. There's a lot behind it. Is it completely removing megas? No. Can megas exist side by side? Yes. Pokken Tournament kind of proves this. Other than that, we'll see where it goes, but this is something to keep in the back of your guys' mind. So if you guys enjoyed the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.